Hello folks, and welcome to Still Figuring It Out Over 50. Be taking a walk around my neighborhood today while we talk. This is actually how the idea for this podcast started. We originally called it Fat Men Walking. You met Scott last week, and he and I have been friends for years. I couldn't even tell you how long. And both of us take walks. We do it for different reasons. We decided that we would try to talk to each other while we were walking. So he was half a world away in Europe, Portugal. Here I am in California. We would just chat about all kinds of stuff. Anything that crossed our minds. And that's really how this whole thing started, was a plan to just take you folks on a walk with us as we went along and talked about all sorts of things. But upon thinking about it a little bit more, that was not what we would be able to do. We needed more studio time, and besides, how many times can you look at the same places to walk? I'd imagine it'd get kind of boring to sit and watch the same video over and over again, just with different voices going on. So you'll occasionally get, when we go on walks together, you'll occasionally get when we go on solo walks like now, as I walk around my neighborhood to get my steps in for the day. And we just talk about things. Now, along those lines, I want to share with you that in just a couple of days, it's going to be New Year's. It's going to become 2026 here by the end of the week. And a lot of folks do New Year's resolutions. A lot of those resolutions have to do with fitness. When I stop and I think about the fact that I'm going for a walk, and I try to do it every day if I can, I will share that when the precipitation is coming down, I do not go for a walk. Well, in a way it's for fitness, but it's more for mental health. And that's how I started. But let's get back to New Year's Day. New Year's Day brings with it New Year's resolutions. The idea of the New Year's resolution appealed to me when I was younger, because I always thought that there needed to be the beginning of something, and it always needed to be tied to something. What better to tie it to than the beginning of a new year? Maybe a little bit of a promise of how things can be better in the days to come, or maybe how we can put a intentionality for the upcoming year out there. The crazy thing is that, I could make up a statistic. I didn't bother looking it up before I left the house, but I think it's safe to say, most New Year's resolutions don't last. They might last a week, they might last a month, but they don't really go much further than that. And I think the reason is because instead of doing something that we want to do, that we need to do, that makes us better, we're making a change that we think we should make just because it's time bound. I don't necessarily think that's the best way to go about doing things. You see, I was putting on weight at a pretty good clip. It had been, years since I last worked out. And the idea of hitting the gym really didn't appeal to me. Weirdly enough, I even went to work for a gym for several months, because I figured that if I worked there and I had the free membership, the times when it was slow, I would be able to hit the machines or do something to keep me active. And what I discovered was the times when it was slow, there were even times when I was there completely by myself, I didn't bother. I always found something else to do. It was time to check the the chemical levels in the pool, or to do a little bit of deep cleaning in a particular corner of the gym, or something along those lines. I always found a reason to not do it because I didn't feel that it was important to me. There was a definite start time to that. I became an employee of the gym for the express purpose of starting to work out. And thinking about that story got me thinking about all the times that I had done New Year's resolutions in the past, and how none of them has ever stuck. But I did have one particular change in habit that came up while I was dealing with some stuff going on in life. Turn the camera here so we're not staring at those workmen coming down the hill at us. I made a change that was essentially a New Year's resolution in the middle of the year. That's how I came to start walking. I was having some significant health problems, part of which you might hear as I go up this hill, because you see the second time I got COVID, it made it so that my lung capacity decreased. Never had a problem with it before. But now I find myself wheezing for breath, and it's one of the reasons why I was able to put off working out so much. Then came this time where I knew I had to make a change. It wasn't time bound, it wasn't a good idea, it was you have to do this, or else your life is going to become significantly worse at a rate that you can do nothing about. And so I decided to start walking around in my neighborhood. As I was walking, I discovered that little tasks were becoming easier. And amazingly enough, even though it may not sound like it now, I was able to breathe a little bit better. Then, all of a sudden, as part of my health concerns, I stopped having an appetite. It wasn't because I was taking any drugs, none of the, what do they call them, GLP-1s or anything like that. It was entirely physiological. So I lost my appetite, and I discovered that I was going sometimes a matter of days. At one point I got up to a week without having eaten. But I kept doing my walks and unintentionally reducing my calorie intake. All of a sudden I started to lose weight. And as the weight has come off, it's been easier to move. It's been easier to get little things done. I have a teenage son. Here I am in my 50s with a teenage son. And he's wanted me to teach him baseball, different things about baseball. He's wanted me to get down on the floor and work with him on models and play board games and the such. And here I was feeling like a very old man by not being able to do any of those things. But as the weight came off, all of a sudden I found out I could get up off the floor. I found out that I didn't have to reposition my arms to play baseball, to swing the bat, so that I wouldn't get them caught up on my belly. Unfortunately, the breathing has stayed the same. I attribute that to lung damage, as well as a hard-lived life up to this point, which included breathing of smoke on a regular basis. Not a smoker, note. I was involved in public safety, as well as the breathing of chemicals from time to time. But the really significant portion that I wanted to talk about is the fact that it wasn't tied to a time for me to start going for a walk. It was tied to a reason. And so, as we start to consider what we might be resolving to do in 2026, instead of thinking that we need to do this because of the time of year it is, because New Year's Day is upon us, because the calendar says so, because it's tradition, because it's what a friend wants us to do. If you're thinking about changes, think about the reasons why. Look at your motivations. In my case, I wanted to live. And really the only way for me to continue doing that was to do something about my physical activity. If I continued to sit around like a slug on the sofa, maybe playing video games, maybe not, then that's exactly what I was going to be. I was going to be a slug on a sofa. But by moving, my life has changed. By getting out and going for a walk, my life has changed. It gave me the perspective to see that there are other people who may be more like me than I think and just need a little bit of encouragement to find their motivation, the reason why they should do something. And honestly, when it comes to a New Year's resolution, my New Year's resolution of starting to walk every day came somewhere around the 1st of August. Notice I didn't say the 1st of January. It came around the 1st of August, and that was where I branded my new life. So I had a new life resolution instead of a New Year's resolution, and it's kept me moving ever since. Now, I can't talk to Scott's reasons for his walking. I suspect that I know. Being in Portugal, I think I would probably walk a lot too. I know when I was in Scotland, I walked everywhere. But both of us are having a better life because of it, and both of us are there for each other to help motivate the other to get off their butt and go for their daily walk. If either one of us is wanting to just sit around and do a whole lot of nothing. So the primary focus of this week's time with y'all is to talk about motivation versus obligation. When we do something out of obligation, everything is external. And it is easier to lie to an external force. It is easier to make excuses. It is easier to just straight out ignore the outside source. But when the motivation comes from within, whether it's dropping a particular food, starting to work out. My favorite, and I've seen a lot of people try it, and I've also seen a lot of people succeed, is the desire to become a better person. And the crazy thing is, I can't define what a better person is. Only the person whose resolution it is can define what that means. I've become a better person by walking. I feel healthier. I act healthier. I'm there for people who need me. But in somebody else's case, it might be as simple as stopping to swear. Or stopping swearing, as the case might be. And that motivation comes from inside. When you're the person who is setting the goals, when you're the person who's defining what your goals are, And when you're the person ultimately to whom you have to report at the end of the day, it's more difficult to lie, to ignore, to make excuses, because you're the person who's living the experience. You're not having to give anybody else the idea that, you're doing something for them. And you're not holding yourself accountable to somebody else or to something else. You're holding yourself accountable to you. And the only person that can really be disappointed in that case is you. And the only person who can truly succeed at that point is you. And so, my friends, I'm going to round out this part of the video by sharing the thought that your New Year's resolution can come at any time of the year. Don't wait for a particular calendar-bound situation, because the day will come up and you might have a sniffle and you can say, well, instead of doing it on January 1st, I'm going to do it on February 14th, and it'll be a Valentine's Day gift to, my loved one, to me, whatever the case may be. But you can do that so long as you're tying it to something external. But maybe instead of making it a calendar-bound situation, you tie the calendar to it the way I did. August 1st is the day that I decided I was going to have a new life. It was the day that I decided that I was going to take control. And now it's a day that can be celebrated by myself and my family for the entire purpose of just celebrating. Of looking back and seeing where I've failed. And I'll tell you what, I've failed quite a bit lately due to the fact that it's been cold and rainy and even in some cases a little snowy. But I've also succeeded in just the past year. Actually, let me just boil that down. Just the last 6 months, I have dropped 23 pounds. I've been able to get on the floor and play games with my son. I've been able to actually jump up and cheer at his ball games. And so instead of tying our resolution to the calendar or to an event, let's tie an event to our resolutions, making ourselves and the world more joyful by doing so. All right, so that's the end of that chunk. And I'm just going to take a couple of minutes here now at the end of this video to share with you that this right here is actually one of my most favorite places to walk. It's our local college campus. You'd think that there'd be a lot of people here because, well, college campuses are notoriously busy. And just so you know, I'm not taking my normal route today across campus because I walk around the buildings and that kind of stuff just so that I can add some mileage, some steps. But here we are on winter break. The students have all gone home because the dorms are closed. The only people here are actually staff members, not even the faculty's here. And so it's really quiet. And when it's quiet, I get to see the little changes that are made across the campus. It's almost like I'm watching a movie in slow motion sometimes. Because each day that I walk, the frames change just a little bit. And it's up to me to spot the differences. Just like those little things we used to do as a kid, there are 20 differences between the pictures. Can you spot them all? And on this campus, it's not particularly busy during the school year either. Because whereas this used to be a liberal arts campus several decades ago when I attended here, there's still the liberal arts, there's still the hard sciences, But the primary business of this campus is public safety training. There's a police academy here. There's a fire academy here. There is, from what I've heard, one of the most highly recognized programs for paramedics on this campus. They teach nursing here. And it seems to me that the more I talk to students here, they're involved either in the public safety aspect, the first response aspect, or they're athletes. And they're probably never going to be athletes that you've heard of, but every once in a while, one pops up. I can think of a particular defensive end in the NFL who once upon a time graced the field up here for, I think it was just a semester, but he was here for a while. And just being an athlete doesn't stop them from pursuing other goals. In part of my other life, I'm also a rideshare driver. And I particularly enjoy picking up students and driving them to the airport, or getting them to the train station. There's not a lot of call for Greyhound here, but that's because the Greyhound service is unreliable due to a lack of drivers. But the idea of working with these young people and getting a chance to talk to them about what their hopes and dreams and goals are in the years to come, and listening to them, understanding that just because they are able to do something right now, something tremendous, gymnastics, basketball, baseball, football, they understand they won't be able to do it forever. And for those who are looking to become police officers, nurses, medics, firefighters, they recognize that it's part of what makes their life worth living instead of the purpose of their life. When I was younger, I used to love sports. I would get involved in what I could. And then there came a time in my 20s when I became a dad and I quit playing. And I think that's when I may have very well started the journey towards an unfulfilling life, which led to my health problems and other things. And so being able to walk this campus where I once attended, and being able to listen to the stories and the hopes and the dreams of the young people that are attending here now, gives me a very special, warm, fuzzy feeling. Especially when I listen to other folks talk about how the generation to come is not learning from those who went before. And back in my day, all of us who swore we'd never say that are now saying it. But getting a chance to talk with these young people helps me to understand that the world is in fact not going to hell in a handbasket. As a matter of fact, the world is becoming a different place than what I knew and what I grew up with. I mean, heck, I'm recording this on a computer that happens to function as a telephone. When I was growing up, when I was their age, the Commodore 64 was the most popular computer. And the Apple IIe was the machine that everybody learned to code on when they were in my school. As a matter of fact, I learned to code on an Apple machine in that building right there. By walking this campus on days when there are students here, gives me faith in the human race. At a time when it'd be so easy to give up on the world. At a time when what I see is argument and strife and division. I also see hope walking across this campus. I see hope in the ever-changing face of this campus. I see hope in the young people and even the people who are my age who have come to this campus to learn how to do something different. And that's something I'll be talking about in the future as I talk about employment over the age of 50. But I think that's the message that I want to leave us with at the end of this year. Is it's so easy to find the things that make us different, to find the things that create the other who must be raged against. And it's not always so easy to find the hope in things. And that, my friends, is the reason that I'm taking this walk across campus today, and why I'm talking about New Year's resolutions, or resolutions for a new you. Is the news peddles doom and gloom. I choose to see hope. I listen to what's going on around me, but then I watch those who are coming behind me and inheriting this world. And it allows me to breathe just a little bit easier as the days go by. So, having been wandering around my town a little bit, I would like to say to you folks, that's it. I'll see you next week, and I'm glad you were able to come with me.